Happiness is a daily fight, not a passive gift. Let me ask you something most people never pause to ask themselves. Where does your happiness come from? Your life or your mindset? Most people live as if joy is something that just happens to them. When the job finally feels secure, when the kids behave, when the scale shows the right number, when someone finally sees their worth. But the truth is much simpler and far more powerful. Happiness isn't delivered to you. It's built by you, and it's built through practice, not perfection. In a world that throws chaos at your peace daily, happiness becomes an act of quiet rebellion. It's not about being cheerful all the time. It's not about ignoring pain or pretending life is easy. It's about choosing how you respond when life isn't. You don't need a perfect morning to show up with presence. You don't need a drama-free life to protect your calm. What you need is training, emotional strength that is built the same way physical strength is, through repetition, resistance, and recovery. Because the world will test your peace, it will pull you into noise. It will tempt you to believe you need everything to align before you're allowed to feel joy. And if you're not careful, you'll fall for that lie. But here's the Stoic truth. You don't need easier circumstances. You need stronger habits. You don't need to wait for life to get lighter. You need to become the person who knows how to walk through the dark and still carry light. Happiness is not a personality trait. It's a discipline. It's what happens when you make the decision, again and again, to not let your emotions be ruled by your environment. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations on a beach with a smoothie in hand. He wrote them during war, during political pressure, during grief and uncertainty. And yet he still chose to say, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. That's not optimism. That's ownership. So today I want to invite you into something deeper than just feeling good. Because anyone can be happy when life is easy. But real peace, the kind that makes you resilient, grounded, alive, comes from within. It's not something you wait for. It's something you train for. This episode is not about hype. It's not about empty affirmations or fake smiles. It's about showing up for yourself. Every day, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. So if you're tired of being at the mercy of moods, circumstances, or other people's behavior, if you're ready to stop outsourcing your joy and start reclaiming your inner power, then stay with me. Because what you'll learn today is simple, but not easy. How to practice happiness like it's a muscle. How to build peace like it's your purpose, and how to rise, especially when it hurts. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Part 1. Happiness is a decision, not a feeling. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, I'll be happy when the pressure lets up, when the bills are paid, when people finally understand you, when life feels a little less chaotic? It's a common thought, and it's one of the most dangerous illusions we carry, because happiness doesn't arrive when life behaves, and it doesn't sneak in when circumstances align. It's not a mood that drifts in on a lucky breeze. It's a practice, a decision made quietly, sometimes even painfully, day after day. The truth is, most people don't choose happiness. They wait for it, like weather. They wait for the perfect job, the ideal body, the peaceful environment, as if joy needs permission from the outside to exist inside. But life doesn't work that way. It's messy. It's unpredictable. Sometimes it's brutally unfair. And if your peace is tied to perfection, you'll spend most of your life waiting. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius, writing not from comfort, but from the battlefield of ruling an empire, reminded himself and us that the mind is its own place. It can make a heaven out of hardship or turn calm moments into chaos. And that power, it's always within you. So here's the question. When you wake up in the morning, what are you choosing? Bitterness or presence? Worry or direction? Some days the choice is easy. The light comes naturally, but other days you feel heavy, unmotivated, lost. You don't even know why. You just feel off. That's when the choice matters most. That's when emotional discipline steps in. Because there are two kinds of people in this world, those who react to life and those who respond to it. Reacting is automatic. It's emotional. It's impulsive. It's waking up, scrolling, spiraling, rushing. But responding? Responding is power. It's the pause, the deep breath, the intentional thought that follows the unhelpful one. It's the moment you catch yourself and say, no, I'm not going to let this mood dictate my movement. I will show up with clarity. I will carry my peace, even if I have to fight for it today. You see, happiness isn't about pretending everything is okay. It's not forced joy or fake smiles. It's grounded strength. It's saying, even in this chaos, I can still choose how I show up. And over time, that choice becomes who you are. Not someone who waits for joy, but someone who becomes it. So the next time you feel the weight of the world creeping in, don't ask, why don't I feel happy? Ask, what am I choosing right now? Because happiness is never found. It's forged. Part 2. Start your day with intention. Let me ask you something simple but powerful. How do you spend the first 5 minutes of your day? Most people don't even realize they've given those moments away. Before they have taken a full breath, they're scrolling. Before they have heard their own thoughts, they've absorbed everyone else's. Before they've grounded themselves, they're already reacting to chaos. And that's not a small detail. That's the beginning of everything. You see, your mind in the morning is wide open. It's like soft clay, ready to be shaped by whatever you let in. If the first thing you do is check the news, check your notifications, check your email, you're handing your peace to the outside world before you've even claimed it for yourself. No wonder so many people feel anxious before breakfast. No wonder the day feels rushed, reactive, out of control. But here's the good news. You don't have to start your day that way. You can take it back. You can choose to begin with intention, not impulse. The Stoics taught us this long before morning routines became trendy. They believed in starting from the inside out, building inner order before stepping into outer noise. Because if your thoughts are scattered, your actions will be too. If your energy is hijacked at sunrise, it won't matter how productive you try to be. You'll spend the day chasing clarity that could have been created in the first 5 minutes. So, what does starting with intention actually look like? It doesn't require a perfect ritual or a 60-minute spiritual routine. It doesn't mean waking up at 5 a.m. to write a novel or run a marathon. It simply means owning your mind before the world does. Maybe it's 3 deep breaths before you touch your phone. Maybe it's sitting in silence while your coffee brews, just noticing your thoughts without judgment. Maybe it's whispering a phrase that anchors you. Today I choose calm. Today I will respond, not react. Today I will move with purpose. It can be that simple and still completely shift your state of being. Because when you begin your day from a grounded place, you move differently. You speak differently. You handle stress with more clarity and disappointment with more strength. Not because life got easier, but because you remembered who you are before life had a chance to make you forget. And here's the truth. The world isn't going to protect your focus. It's going to compete for it. Your phone, your inbox, the headlines. They all scream for your attention. That's why the first few minutes of your day are sacred. They're not a luxury, they're a necessity, a small ritual of self-respect that says, before I carry the weight of the world, I will return to myself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, people look for retreats for themselves, the countryside, the sea, the mountains, but you can retreat into yourself anytime. Your morning is that retreat, that quiet doorway into your own mind, before it gets pulled in every direction. So tomorrow when you wake up, pause. Don't rush. Don't scroll. Don't let the noise in before your breath. Ask yourself, what kind of energy do I want to carry today? What kind of energy will I protect myself from? And let those questions shape the way you begin. Because when you start with intention, you don't just survive the day, you lead it. Part 3. Push yourself when it's hard. There's a moment in each day that no one else sees. It doesn't come with fireworks. It's quiet, ordinary, unimpressive from the outside. It's the moment when your mind whispers, maybe not today. You feel tired, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally. The kind of tired where everything feels heavy, even the simple stuff. And in that moment, you stand at a quiet crossroads. Do I pull back or do I push forward anyway? Most people wait. They wait to feel inspired. They wait until motivation magically shows up. They wait for energy, clarity, the perfect mood. But here's the truth that the Stoics understood deeply. Motivation is not what gets you moving. It's what shows up after you move. Action creates momentum, not the other way around. If you only move when it feels good, you'll live a life ruled by emotion. But when you move even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, you begin to build something far more powerful than motivation. You build identity. Every time you show up on a hard day, every time you do one more rep, write one more line, breathe one more breath of calm, you're telling your brain, I'm not here to be ruled by how I feel. I'm here to lead myself through it. It doesn't have to look heroic. Growth rarely does. Real growth happens in invisible moments, when no one is watching, when the applause is gone, and you still choose to do the work. Epictetus, who endured slavery and disability, didn't teach from a mountaintop. He taught from experience. And one of his most powerful reminders was this: difficulties show a man to himself. That's why the hard moments matter more than we think. Not because they're comfortable, but because they're revealing. They expose the stories you tell yourself. They uncover the limits you've silently accepted. And they present you with a question that will shape your life. Will I let this stop me or shape me? It's easy to perform when the stars align. But who are you when the stars disappear? Who are you when the motivation's gone? When you're alone with your own resistance? That's when your real strength is built. Not the loud kind, but the kind that stays. The kind that you carry into every challenge that comes next. So maybe the better question isn't, is this easy? Maybe the real question is this worth it? Is your growth worth the discomfort? Is your peace worth the discipline? Is your future self worth pushing through this moment right now? Because the truth is, you don't become stronger by waiting for better days. You become stronger by rising through the difficult ones. So the next time your mind says, just skip today, don't fight it, smile at it, and move anyway. Not for the mood, not for perfection, but for the quiet power that grows each time you push, when it's hardest to do so. That's how you build the kind of strength no one can take from you. That's where resilience is born. Part 4. Act first, feel later. What if everything you've been told about motivation is backward? We're taught to wait for the right mood, to wait until we feel inspired, energized, confident, and only then do we move. But here's the truth that changes everything. Action creates emotion, not the other way around. Most people spend their lives negotiating with their feelings. They say, I'll start when I feel ready. I'll speak up when I'm less anxious. I'll show up when I'm more motivated. And yet, those feelings never quite arrive because feelings are fleeting. They shift with the weather, the headlines, your hormones, your sleep. They're real, but they're not always reliable. If you keep waiting for the perfect state of mind before taking action, you'll keep postponing your growth, and you'll quietly train your brain to associate progress with comfort. But here's the powerful shift. When you act, especially when you don't feel like it, you teach your mind something new. You teach it that you're in charge. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And how true that is. We play mental movies of everything that could go wrong. We overthink until even the smallest step feels monumental. But once you begin, even with the tiniest action, something changes. Your brain starts to rewire, your energy shifts, you begin to remember what you're capable of. This isn't about pretending you're not tired or faking positivity. It's about taking one real, grounded step forward and letting that step build the momentum. Because here's what science and stoicism both agree on. Your brain is a creature of habit. The more often you act through resistance, the more natural it becomes. You stop needing motivation to move because movement becomes part of who you are. Think of writers. They don't wait for inspiration every morning. They sit down, open the laptop, and begin. One word leads to the next. Think of athletes. They don't only train when they feel strong. They show up because training is identity. It's what they do, regardless of the mood. And you don't need to feel brave to take the first step. You take the step, and that's what builds courage. You don't need to feel motivated to begin. You begin, and that's what creates motivation. So the next time your mind says, not today, not yet, not ready, pause, acknowledge the feeling, and move anyway. One breath, one stretch, one call, one email, one sentence written, just one thing. Let that be enough to shift your energy. Because that's how you build not just habits, but a new self-image. You stop seeing yourself as someone who waits and start seeing yourself as someone who leads. Not perfectly, not dramatically, but consistently. So ask yourself today, what's one small action I can take right now that my future self will thank me for? Then take it. Not because you feel like it, but because you decided to grow. Part 5. Your focus builds your feelings. Have you ever noticed this? Two people can go through the exact same day, same job, same traffic, same weather, but one ends the day feeling grateful while the other feels drained. Why? The answer isn't in their circumstances, it's in their focus. You see, your brain is not a neutral observer, it's a filter. And one of its most powerful tools is something called the reticular activating system, a fancy term for the mechanism that decides what you notice and what you ignore. If you focus on problems, your brain will highlight more problems. If you dwell on what's missing, it will magnify every flaw, every inconvenience, every slight. Not because the world got worse, but because your attention told your brain that's what matters. And this works both ways. When you start shifting your lens, just slightly, toward what's going right, your mind starts showing you more reasons to feel stable, grateful, empowered. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're finally noticing the good that was always there. It's not about blind optimism, it's about emotional momentum. One positive focus creates another, And just like a spiral of stress can pull you down, a shift in focus can pull you back to center. Marcus Aurelius, one of the wisest Stoic emperors, wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." He understood this centuries before neuroscience did, that what you dwell on becomes the emotional palette of your life. So the question becomes, what color are you painting your inner world with? Are you constantly replaying what hurt you? Are you scanning for what could go wrong? Are you feeding your mind with everything that's out of your control? Or are you practicing the discipline of redirecting your gaze, not in denial, but in defiance, in the choice to say, yes, this is hard, but it's not everything. There's still something here worth noticing. That kind of shift doesn't require a miracle. It just requires awareness. You don't need to fake joy. You just need to stop feeding the story that says joy is unavailable. You don't need to ignore what's wrong, but you do need to stop letting it be the only thing you see, because your feelings will follow your focus, always. If you focus on what drains you, you'll feel exhausted. If you focus on what anchors you, you'll feel more alive. And slowly over time, your entire emotional state will start to change. This is how you reclaim power in moments that feel powerless. This is how you stop spiraling, by noticing you're spiraling and choosing to reach for something else. So next time your day starts to unravel, ask yourself, what am I magnifying right now? Is it helping me feel grounded? Or is it pulling me further away from myself? And then pause, take one breath, look around, find one thing, just one, that's still working, still steady, still good. Let that be your turning point. Let that be enough to shift your energy. Because when you train your focus, you don't just see the world differently, you feel it differently. And from that place, you don't just survive life, you begin to lead it. Part 6. Feed your mind like you feed your body. Imagine someone told you they haven't eaten in 3 days. What would you say? You'd probably be concerned. You'd urge them to rest, to nourish themselves, to take it seriously, because the body needs fuel to function. And yet, how often do we neglect our minds in the exact same way? We feed our bodies multiple times a day without question, but our minds, we starve them. Or worse, we pollute them. We scroll through shallow content for hours, letting noise and negativity flood our awareness. We consume gossip, drama, outrage, distraction, and then we wonder why we feel anxious, scattered, uninspired. It's not a mystery, it's mental malnutrition. Just like junk food weakens the body, mental junk weakens your clarity, your creativity, your emotional resilience. It clouds your ability to think, to choose, to be present. And over time, it becomes your baseline. But here's the empowering truth. You can change your mental state by changing your mental diet. Think about it. What would happen if, instead of reaching for random content, you chose to read something meaningful every morning? A few pages of a book that expands you, a quote that centers you, a reflection that reminds you who you want to be? What if, instead of drowning in notifications, you pause for just 2 minutes a day to breathe, to journal, to ask yourself, what's one thought I want to plant in my mind today? What if instead of gossip, you chose conversations that uplift, challenge, or heal? These aren't grand gestures. They're small decisions, repeated daily. And over time, they rewire your mental landscape. They shift what you notice, how you think, how you feel. They remind you that your attention is your greatest currency. Spend it wisely. The Stoics knew this long before the digital age. They didn't have smartphones or 24/7 media, but they fiercely guarded what entered their minds. Marcus Aurelius filtered his own thoughts in the pages of Meditations, not for others, but to discipline his own clarity. Seneca warned about wasting time on trivialities, calling it the greatest loss of all. Their message was clear. Your mind becomes what you train it with. And in our time, that training is constant. Every scroll, every word, every screen, it's shaping you. So what are you feeding your mind? Because just like your physical health doesn't improve by accident, neither does your emotional strength. It takes intention. It takes boundaries. It takes conscious choice. So build your own mental diet. Start your day with something rich in meaning. Midday, take 60 seconds to check in with your thoughts. And at night, trade one scroll for one moment of stillness. These aren't restrictions. They're anchors. They keep you centered when the world spins fast. Because when your mind is well fed, you think clearer, you feel stronger, you navigate challenges with more depth, more presence, more peace. So treat your mind like something sacred, because it is. And remember, you don't just become what you eat. You become what you consume, what you dwell on, what you allow in day after day. Choose wisely. You're building more than a mood. You're building a mindset. Part 7. Gratitude is a survival tool, not a luxury gratitude. It's a word we hear often. But let's be honest. When life feels like it's falling apart, when you're tired, overwhelmed, or hurting, gratitude can feel like a joke. It sounds tone-deaf, doesn't it? Just be grateful, as if that could erase grief, as if it's supposed to make the pain disappear. But what if gratitude isn't about pretending everything's okay? What if it's something much more powerful than that? Gratitude is not denial. It's defiance. It's a quiet, steady rebellion against the pull of hopelessness. Your brain is wired to look for threats. It's built to scan for danger, to spot what's missing, what might go wrong. That's how it protects you. But in a world filled with noise, negativity, and uncertainty, that same survival mechanism can backfire. You start seeing problems everywhere. You replay mistakes. You fixate on what's broken. And slowly, without even noticing it, you begin to believe that life is only chaos. But gratitude interrupts that loop. It doesn't ask you to ignore the pain. It simply invites you to remember that the pain is not everything. Even in sorrow, something remains. A breath, a small act of kindness, a sunrise you didn't earn but received anyway. The strength it took to get through this moment, right now. These aren't cliches. They're anchors. They bring your mind back from the edge. They remind you that not all is lost. The Stoics practice this daily. Seneca, a man who lost wealth, power, and loved ones, wrote often about death and impermanence, not to scare himself, but to sharpen his appreciation for what still was. He understood something we forget. Gratitude doesn't erase pain. It frames it. It gives you space to breathe inside the heaviness. It allows you to say, yes, this hurts, but this isn't the end of the story. And here's the science behind it. Gratitude literally rewires your brain. Neuroscience shows that consistent gratitude practice lowers stress hormones, improves sleep, and boosts resilience. But beyond the science, it just feels like truth. When you pause, even for 60 seconds, and notice what still works, your nervous system starts to settle. You return to the moment. You stop spiraling. You soften. And that shift doesn't need to be dramatic. You don't need a gratitude journal with gold-trimmed pages. You don't need to make a list of 10 things every morning. You just need presence. A quiet moment in the middle of your chaos where you ask yourself, what is still beautiful right now? Maybe it's the fact that you're still trying, still breathing, still showing up, even when life hasn't shown up for you. That is not weakness, that is resilience. Because gratitude isn't a reward for the lucky, it's a survival tool for the hurting. It grounds you in what's real, so that pain doesn't get to define the entire picture. So the next time everything feels heavy, don't try to escape it. Instead, look closer. What remains? Say it out loud. Let it interrupt the noise. Let it remind you that peace isn't something you earn. It's something you return to through attention, presence, and gratitude. Not once, but again and again. Part 8. Your habits shape your emotions. Have you ever had a day where your emotions felt out of control and you couldn't quite explain why? You weren't in a crisis. Nothing major happened, but everything felt heavier than it should. That's not just mood. That's the result of something deeper, something quieter. Your habits. We often treat our emotional state as random, like weather. Good day, bad day, happy, anxious, irritated, without a clear reason. But what if those feelings aren't just happening to you? What if your daily behaviors, the things you do or neglect without thinking, are shaping the way you feel? Because the truth is, your habits are the foundation of your emotional life. Not the dramatic stuff, not the big decisions, but the small, repeatable things you do or don't do. Are you drinking enough water? Are you moving your body even for 5 minutes? Are you breathing deeply once in a while, away from screens and stress? Are you resting with intention or just collapsing into bed? These sound simple, but simple is not the same as insignificant. When you neglect the basics, your body speaks through restlessness, tension, fog, fatigue. And when the body is off balance, your emotions follow. It's hard to feel clear when you're dehydrated. It's hard to stay calm when your nervous system is overstimulated. It's hard to be present when you haven't paused in days. This is where emotional intelligence truly begins. Not with analyzing your past, but with caring for your present physical state. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed in the discipline of the body not as punishment, but as preparation. Seneca wrote that a calm mind comes from a well-ordered life. Marcus Aurelius trained like a soldier, not just to stay strong, but to remain centered under pressure. They knew what modern science confirms. The body and mind are not separate, they're one system, and when you care for the body, you support the mind. You create a foundation stable enough to hold your emotions without being knocked over by them. So let's stop overcomplicating emotional healing. Start with this: a glass of water before your coffee, a 2-minute walk instead of a doom scroll, one deep breath before you respond to a message, one moment of stillness before bed. These aren't grand transformations, they're micro shifts, but done daily, they change everything. Because when your body feels safe, your mind relaxes. When your mind relaxes, your emotions settle. And when your emotions settle, you respond, not react. This is how you reclaim emotional steadiness. Not through constant willpower, but through quiet, consistent structure. You don't need a perfect routine. You need a support system designed by you for you. A few simple anchors repeated day after day, especially when you don't feel like it, because those are the days that matter most. And here's the beauty of it. The more you honor these habits, the less effort they take. They become second nature. They start to carry you. So if your emotions feel scattered lately, don't just analyze. Check your rhythms. Check your breath. Check your sleep. Check your nourishment. Because how you treat your body, moment by moment, shapes how your mind experiences the world. And when your habits support your peace, you stop chasing stability. You start living from it. Part 9. Your peace is your responsibility. Let's talk about peace. Not the kind you find on vacation. Not the kind that comes when everything in life goes your way. I'm talking about the kind of peace that lives inside you, even when the outside world is spinning. And here's the hard truth. That kind of peace, it's your job to protect it. No one else will do it for you. Not your friends, not your partner, not your boss, not even your therapist. You can't outsource inner peace. You can't delegate it because no one else feels what you feel. No one else knows what drains you, what overwhelms you, what keeps you up at night. And yet most of us keep waiting for permission, for someone else to say, it's okay to step back. It's okay to say no. It's okay to protect your space. But what if the permission you've been waiting for is yours to give? The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, no one can disturb your peace unless you allow them to. It sounds simple, but in practice, it's a powerful shift because it places the responsibility back where it belongs, on you, not to blame yourself, but to empower yourself. It means realizing if someone's voice constantly rattles your calm, you can turn the volume down. If your calendar is packed with obligations you dread, you can begin to set boundaries. If your phone leaves you feeling scattered and anxious, you can reclaim your attention. And yes, sometimes protecting your peace will disappoint people. You might be called cold, or selfish, or distant, but that discomfort is part of emotional maturity. It's the price of choosing peace over people-pleasing. It's choosing long-term alignment over short-term approval. Because here's the thing, peace doesn't just show up when life quiets down. Peace is built in the middle of noise. It's a discipline, a conscious choice, a daily return to yourself. Ask yourself, what robs me of peace most often? Who or what do I keep saying yes to when my body screams no? Where in my life am I abandoning myself just to avoid conflict? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary because the moment you start asking them, you begin to reclaim your power. Peace is not passivity. It's not weakness. It's the opposite. It takes strength to walk away from chaos. It takes clarity to say, this is not mine to carry. It takes courage to protect your energy when the world expects you to be endlessly available. So today I invite you to make a quiet promise to yourself. I will stop waiting for the world to become calm. I will create calm within myself, and I will protect it, not with walls, but with wisdom. Because your peace, it's not a luxury, it's not a reward, it's a responsibility. And the more you take ownership of it, the more unshakable you become. Part 10, train your brain to think better. Here's a quiet truth most people never learn. Not every thought you think is true. Not every voice in your head is wisdom. Not every worry, every fear, every assumption deserves your trust. But most people, they never stop to question their thoughts. They hear something in their mind, and they believe it, without pause, without challenge, as if it came from a higher power instead of an old wound. What if your thoughts aren't facts, but just habits? Mental reflexes built from past pain, fear, or repetition. Here's the good news. Your brain is trainable, just like a muscle. And with the right practice, you can teach it to think better, clearer, kinder, stronger. The Stoics knew this long before neuroscience confirmed it. Marcus Aurelius, arguably the most powerful man of his time, didn't just lead empires. He journaled. He trained his mind like a warrior sharpens his sword. Every morning and night he examined his thoughts. He asked, is this useful? Is this wise? Or is this just noise? You can do the same, and it starts with 3 simple steps. 1. Catch the thought. Notice it. Don't judge it. Just pause and observe. Maybe it's, I'm not good enough, or I'll probably fail, or they must be mad at me. Second question in it, is it absolutely true, or is it just fear, insecurity, or assumption speaking? 3. Replace it with something truer, something calmer, something like, I'm learning, or this is hard, but I've done hard things before, or even if I fail, I'll grow. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's about accurate thinking. It's about choosing thoughts that serve your strength, not your suffering. Because your mind, when left untrained, becomes a battlefield. But when you train it, it becomes a compass, a source of clarity instead of confusion, a place of peace instead of panic. And over time, with repetition, these new thoughts become familiar. They become natural. They become you. So ask yourself, what thought have I accepted lately that doesn't deserve my trust? What mental loop keeps running that I need to rewrite? This is mental fitness, not glamorous, not instant, but life-changing. It's the quiet discipline of choosing better thoughts again and again and again. Train your brain like a Stoic, not to be perfect, but to be free. Part 11, don't chase the feeling, build the habit. Let me ask you something personal. How many times have you waited for the right feeling before starting? The motivation, the spark, the perfect mindset. And how many times did it never come? Here's a quiet truth the Stoics live by. Don't chase the feeling. Build the habit. Because feelings are fleeting. Habits are who you become. You see, most people think they need to feel ready before they act. But the opposite is true. You act first, you move first, and then the motivation follows, not the other way around. That's why the most powerful changes in life don't start with grand emotions. They start with small systems, tiny actions, things so simple, they're almost invisible. 5 minutes of stretching in the morning, 1 sentence written in your journal, a quick daily check-in. What did I learn today? It might not feel impressive in the moment, but done consistently, it rewires your brain. It builds identity. It creates quiet confidence. Not because you feel good, but because you showed up. Epictetus once said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Not what you feel like doing, not what seems easy, but what's aligned with who you want to become. That's where real strength lives. In the structure, not the mood. In the rhythm, not the rush. Because if you wait for motivation to carry you, you'll keep starting and stopping. Up one day, down the next. But when you build habits, you build momentum. And momentum is stronger than emotion. It doesn't ask how you feel. It just moves. So instead of asking, how can I feel more motivated? Try asking, what can I do every day no matter what? That's where the shift begins. From being ruled by your emotions to becoming anchored by your discipline. And over time, you don't just do the habit, you become the person who lives it. Calm, clear, capable, no matter the weather inside or out. Let that be your quiet revolution. Part 12, refuse to be a victim. Let's be honest, life isn't always fair. Good people suffer. Kindness isn't always returned. Sometimes you do everything right and still end up hurting. But here's a truth you rarely hear. You can acknowledge the pain without surrendering your power. You are allowed to feel hurt, but you don't have to live hurt because pain is part of life. But victimhood, that's a choice. See, when we stay in the role of the victim, we give away our agency. We wait for someone else to make it right. We wait for closure that may never come. We wait, and in waiting, we waste our life. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." What does that mean? It doesn't mean denial. It means reclaiming authorship of your story. You don't need an apology to begin healing. You don't need fairness to begin rising. You need one thing: the decision to move forward on your terms. That's not toxic positivity. It's radical responsibility. It's saying, yes, that happened. Yes, it hurt, but it doesn't define me. You get to decide what happens next. You get to write the next chapter, and you don't need permission. The most powerful healing often comes in silence, not from closure, but from clarity, not from revenge, but from release. Ask yourself, what do I gain by staying in the story of being wronged? And what becomes possible if I step into the story of my strength? That doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means choosing to become more than what happened. You are not your scars. You are the soul that kept showing up despite them. And the world needs more people like that. People who rise, people who rewrite, people who quietly say, "This hurt me, but it doesn't own me." So refuse to be a victim. Reclaim your mind. Reclaim your voice. Reclaim your future. Because healing isn't just about feeling better. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be: whole, grounded, free. Part 13. The hard days count the most. Not every day is meant to feel good. Some days feel heavy. You wake up and there's a weight you can't explain. The motivation is gone. The spark is missing. And everything in you wants to check out or give up. But what if I told you, these are the days that matter the most? Not the days when everything flows and the world claps for you. Not the highlight reel, but the silent mornings when you show up anyway. The afternoons when your body is tired, but your spirit whispers, just one more step. This is the space where real growth begins, not in external success, but in your internal decisions. The Stoics knew this well. To them, obstacles weren't punishments. They were invitations, training grounds for the soul. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations during war, pressure, and illness. Why? Because those were the moments that tested his philosophy. That revealed who he really was. And the same is true for you. Every time you keep going on a hard day, you quietly cast a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. You reinforce your resilience. You deepen your discipline. You build an identity that doesn't depend on comfort to act with courage. So instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What strength is this building within me?" It's easy to be disciplined when life is smooth, but when your world is shaking and you still choose to breathe, to write, to move, to reflect, that's a quiet kind of greatness most people will never see. But you will feel it. You'll feel it in the way your nervous system begins to trust you, in the way you talk to yourself with more kindness, in the quiet pride of knowing you didn't quit when you could have. So don't dismiss your difficult days. Honor them. They're not setbacks. They're sculpting your depth, shaping your story, strengthening your soul. You won't always see the rewards right away, but with time you'll look back and realize that the hard days were the ones that made you who you are. Part 14. Joy comes from alignment, not acquisition. What if I told you that joy has nothing to do with how much you have, and everything to do with how deeply you live? We live in a world obsessed with more. More success, more followers, more goals, but somehow less peace, less presence, less real joy. And here's the hard truth most people don't realize until much later. You can have everything you ever wanted and still feel empty inside. Why? Because true joy doesn't come from achievement. It doesn't come from shiny trophies, job titles, or applause. It comes from alignment, from waking up in the morning and being proud of the way you live, not just the way you look. Ask yourself this: am I proud of how I showed up today? Am I living in a way that reflects my core values? Or am I performing for the world? Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, warned us thousands of years ago. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. When we chase without reflection, we begin to starve the soul. Because here's what happens. The more we look outside for meaning, the more disconnected we become from the inside. And when your values and actions don't align, no matter how successful you look, you'll always feel that quiet tension inside, that sense that something isn't right. But when you close the gap, when what you believe matches how you behave, a different kind of peace enters your life. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it's steady and it's yours. That's what alignment feels like. It's not about perfection. It's not about being rigid or self-righteous. It's about being real, real with yourself, real with your intentions, real with your values, even when no one's watching. Because joy isn't a destination. It's the byproduct of living honestly. So maybe it's time to stop asking, what more can I get? And start asking, what more can I return to? Return to what you truly believe in. Return to the habits that keep you grounded. Return to the kind of person you promised yourself you'd be. You don't need to accomplish more to be enough. You need to align more with what matters most. And over time, as this becomes your daily practice, you don't just feel lighter, you live lighter, more joyful, more grounded, more whole. So if you're searching for joy, don't chase it in the distance. Look inward, ask better questions, and walk in a way that reflects who you truly are. That's where real joy begins. Not in what you acquire, but in how deeply you align. Part 15. Keep life simple. Sometimes the heaviness you feel doesn't come from life itself. It comes from the layers we've added on top of it. The expectations, the comparisons, the endless to-do lists, the pressure to do it all, be it all, prove it all. But what if your life doesn't need to be more? What if it needs to be less? Less noise, less clutter, less rushing toward things that don't really matter. See, overwhelm rarely comes from doing too little. It comes from doing too much of what doesn't align. We don't burn out because we're incapable. We burn out because we forget to simplify. And simplifying doesn't mean you're giving up. It doesn't mean you're lazy or lacking ambition. It means you've chosen focus. It means you've remembered what actually matters. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That's Stoic simplicity in action. Because in a world that screams, do more, stillness is a rebellion. Clarity is a superpower. Think about it. What if your joy isn't hiding in some grand achievement? What if it's waiting in a quiet cup of tea, a short walk at sunset, a deep breath before reacting? What if peace comes not from adding more, but from subtracting what doesn't belong? The Stoics believed in essentialism, not in a trendy, minimalist way, but in a deep, practical sense of only giving your time and energy to what aligns with your principles. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every task deserves your urgency. Not every invitation deserves a yes. So ask yourself, what am I carrying right now that I don't need to? What obligations, distractions, or habits are making my life unnecessarily heavy? Simplify doesn't just mean cleaning your house. It means clearing your inner world, saying no without guilt, letting go of what isn't yours to hold, choosing depth over noise. Because when life gets simple, you start to hear yourself again. Your thoughts get clearer, your values rise to the surface, your energy returns. You remember that joy was never complicated. It was just hidden beneath the clutter. So today, strip it back. Do one thing that matters. Say one thing that's true. Breathe, and let that be enough. Over time, as you keep simplifying, you don't just think more clearly, you live more clearly, more calm, more rooted, more free. Simplicity is not a lack of effort. It's the art of making room for what truly matters. Part 16, End the Day with Gratitude. How you end your day matters not just for your sleep, but for your spirit, for your nervous system, for your sense of peace when the world finally goes quiet. Most people rush into sleep like it's a chore, scrolling until their eyes give out, dragging their minds into bed, still carrying the weight of the day. And then they wonder why they wake up tired. But what if the way you close the day is just as powerful as how you start it? The Stoics knew this well. Epictetus spoke often about evening reflection, but not with guilt, not with shame. He invited us to review the day with gentle awareness, to look at what we did well, what we could improve, and then to release. One of the most transformative tools for this is simple: gratitude. Not in the cliche sense, not in the performative way we sometimes hear it used, but in the raw, grounding way that pulls you back to what is, even when life feels hard. Because even on the days that weren't perfect, even on the days that felt heavy or disappointing, there's always something to honor: a moment of connection, a lesson you learned, the strength it took just to make it through. Gratitude doesn't deny your struggles, it holds them gently, and then says, still, something good remains. When you end the day with this kind of presence, your body relaxes, your mind stops fighting. You remind yourself that even if things weren't ideal, you're still here, still growing, still showing up, and that matters. Gratitude also builds what modern science calls emotional resilience. It lowers cortisol, improves sleep quality, and most importantly, it shifts your perspective from lack to enough. Try this tonight. Before you fall asleep, name just 3 things. 3 real things you're grateful for. Not to impress anyone, just to feel them. It could be a warm shower, the sound of laughter, the lesson that came from a difficult conversation. No moment is too small. And that's the magic. Gratitude teaches us that the small things were never small. Over time, this practice rewires your mind. You become more grounded, more aware, more compassionate with yourself and others. You stop chasing a perfect life and start noticing the beautiful one that's already here. So as the day comes to a close, ask yourself, what went well? What did I learn? And what can I thank this day for? Even if it didn't go as planned. Because when you close the day with gratitude, you don't just sleep better, you live better. One breath, one reflection, one thank you at a time. Happiness is a practice, not a mystery. Take a moment and breathe with me. You've just explored 16 shifts, small, practical, yet deeply transformative. And now the question isn't, did you remember them all? It's, which one will you live tomorrow? Because here's what most people never realize. Happiness isn't some hidden treasure waiting to be found. It's not a perfect job, a perfect partner, or a perfect day. It's not something you wait for. It's something you build. You build it when you rise early with purpose, when you stretch your body and center your mind, when you choose gratitude over gossip, simplicity over noise. You build it when you say no to what drains you and yes to what aligns with your values. You build it in the silence of your daily reflections, in the structure you set, the boundaries you hold, and the small habits you repeat, not for results, but for who you're becoming. Marcus Aurelius practiced this. He didn't chase peace. He returned to it daily through journaling, discipline, and clear thinking, because he knew that real joy isn't gifted, it's forged. And that's the hidden truth. Happiness is not a destination, it's a rhythm, a quiet returning to what matters, over and over again. So today, don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for a sign. Let the practice be the sign. And when tomorrow comes, ask yourself this: what will you build? Because your peace, your strength, your happiness, they are not random. They are the result of a life you consciously choose, one simple practice at a time.